Hey everybody, this is Panda, and we are bringing you the third episode of Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. This episode we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to keep it a little bit shorter to just highlight some things from the NFL. Today is Thursday, technically Friday for me, Thursday for Bragan as we're recording this. And today was the opening official day of the NFL free agency. So tonight we're going to just be looking at some of the high profile moves that went down today and just kind of seeing, giving our opinions on whether they improved and helped the team or whether they really didn't help the team at all as far as depth or the team making the playoff, because we had a lot of teams with a lot of cap this year. So it really got things to be quite interesting for several teams on several fronts. So, Bragan, how are you doing tonight? And what do you think of the NFL free agency process getting started today?
Well, as you said, it's pretty late, so I'm a little tired, a little out of it, but it was a very exciting day for the NFL. I was a little surprised by the amount of moves that were made. You got Mike Glennon, Desean Jackson, Alshon Jeffery, Brandon Marshall, got a huge trade involving Brock Osweiler to the Browns. I mean, there's just a lot to talk about. So I'm going to let you pick where you want to start out here.
Well, I think we can start with Mike Glennon because this was sort of a move that over the last couple of days, I think a lot of teams have begun to sort of see coming as far as potential destinations. And then you started to hear some numbers before it actually came down. So when you sort of look at Mike Glennon, I don't know about you, but I was kind of surprised that he made this much money. I know he's a quarterback, but sort of unproven, so I was a little bit surprised. What were you kind of thinking? What do you think is going through the heads of the GM there?
I've been watching Glennon since his sophomore year at North Carolina State, and I've always liked the guy. I think he's got a lot of potential, a lot of upside to him, but I just don't think that he deserves this much money right now. And I could see him getting thrown into it with the Bears offensive line getting torn up, losing confidence, benched midway through the season, and just make him look stupid for it. I don't see why he deserves $15 million a year, which is what he's going to be getting. 3 years, $45 million. I don't think he's ready for that yet. I would have given him a 2-year deal, maybe max it out at 10 or 11 to see what else you got through the draft. But I mean, right now they're kind of stuck with him. I don't think it was a very smart financial decision. If that was what it turned into a bidding war, which is what it sounds like it might have been going on, I think they should have dropped out sooner than that because they might have themselves in a bad position here.
Yeah, Glennon he's 27 years old. And that's sort of, when you look at the NFL, this is the point where you either know or you don't by 27. A lot of guys don't have extended into the 30s, maybe like you see in MLB or the NBA. So at 27, you sort of got to know or not know. And it's kind of odd, I think, that Chicago, a team that's been hampered by, bad contracts for a quarterback before, they're just getting out from underneath Jay Cutler's contract, and then suddenly they give another huge one to Glennon. I'm really surprised that they didn't maybe in that draft look to draft a quarterback instead and groom him to be their starting quarterback on a much team friendlier salary, and maybe try to fill some other holes, maybe the offensive line, or put some key weapons around him through free agency. So I was a little bit surprised that they didn't do that. I mean, especially with such a high pick in the draft.
Well, I could still see them potentially drafting a quarterback, maybe not first round, but I mean, even if you look at when the Seahawks got Matt Flynn and ended up drafting Russell Wilson, and all of Flynn's mega deal just went down the drain. Russell obviously went on to do what he's doing now. We could be seeing something very similar here.
Yeah, well, we'll have to keep an eye out and see as the draft gets closer, kind of what they begin to project. And I think it more so will also be interesting to see if some of these quarterbacks start to fall farther and farther into the first round. I saw stories several weeks ago, all the way up to the combine, where 3 quarterbacks could be gone in the top 10. And I think with some of these teams starting to fill some of those quarterback needs through other avenues, I think it could be interesting to kind of keep tabs on what happens in the draft and if some of these quarterbacks start to fall in that first round. So kind of keeping along the same lines with quarterback, I think it would be wise and quite interesting to take a look at Brock Osweiler. Bragan, did you see this one coming at all?
I think we definitely knew that either Denver or Houston was going to have to make a move and deal one of their quarterbacks and just get rid of some cap in general if they wanted a chance to get Tony Romo. And the Texans definitely made a splash there. They shed off his $16 million contract, dumped him off to the Browns. See, I think they gave up a future second-round pick, this year's sixth-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, and Osweiler for the Browns' fourth-round pick this year. It was really just a cap dump move so that they can scoop up Romo, which is a very likely landing spot for him now. And I've also been poking around and seeing that the Browns are actually looking to trade him again. So it doesn't look like he's going to be very welcome there in Cleveland for the time being. But again, you are the Cleveland guy here. Have you been hearing anything about this or about Osweiler potentially being flipped for someone else?
Yeah, that's what I've been reading. The other thing is a lot of these sports writers within Cleveland have been very unimpressed, to put it mildly, with acquiring Brock Osweiler. And I think a lot of them are hoping that they flip him and draft a quarterback and do it right. Or their thinking is that the potential trade I'm seeing is with New England for Garoppolo. You flip Brock Osweiler over to New England with the host of second-round picks, which is why they got another one in this deal with Houston for Garoppolo. And I don't know if logistically that would even work, but that's something that I've been sort of seeing out there, that's sort of the Browns' final end game. Because I think I read in an article today the Browns have 8 first or second round picks in the next 2 drafts. Like, that's ridiculous when you think about it. Like 8 first or second round picks in the next 2 years. That's crazy. So I would not be surprised to see Osweiler get moved. I also wouldn't be surprised if the front office is just saying that to try to avoid some backlash in case their plan was really all along to keep him. I don't really know, but I think they're eventually going to move him. I think you're right on that.
Well, firstly, why does anybody want to trade with New England anyway? I mean, I don't. I just I'm against anyone trading with New England, to be honest with you. I'll touch that in a minute. But why would New England want $16 million unproven Brock Osweiler?
They wouldn't.
I don't see any. I mean, it's all speculation at this point, but I don't see any scenario where there could be a Osweiler Garoppolo flip without the Browns giving up way too much.
And that's probably what's going to end up happening, which is why I'm sort of okay with them drafting a quarterback that they think could be the guy and then let him be the guy. Our problem in Cleveland has always been there's always the next man up. We drafted Johnny Manziel to bring in whatever he brought in, which was nothing good. But, you've always got that next guy. When Manziel was playing, it was always about the next guy off the bench. Hoyer was playing, and then it was always about Manziel. And there's just this continuous cycle of, it's always looking for that next guy. And they really need stability within the front office, within the coaching, and within the quarterback position as well. So find a guy, first round, you think could be your guy, take him, and then let him grow into that position without anybody really behind him. And I think it would be a mistake to draft, a quarterback at 12 and keep Brock Osweiler, because I think we would have the same situation where you've got potentially Osweiler playing while looking over his shoulder, or the other guy playing while looking over his shoulder. So whatever they do, you almost need to just bring in one clear-cut starting quarterback with everybody else being a backup, like most teams do in the NFL.
As much of a dumpster fire as the Browns organization is, I don't see that
happening. Yeah.
But moving on to the other point I made, why the are people still trading with New England? Yesterday, or was it? Yeah, it would have been yesterday. They got Dwayne Allen and a 6th-round pick from the Colts and gave up a 4th-round pick. So they're replacing Martellus Bennett. Got a serviceable number 2 tight end for when Gronk gets back. Why people keep trading with New England, why they keep beefing up the best team in the world. Why would you do that? We don't negotiate with terrorists here. We don't. That's not acceptable. And now I'm hearing about how Brandon Cooks is supposedly headed to New England too. That might be a deal that's finalized tomorrow. Malcolm Butler for Brandon Cooks swap. I mean, Malcolm Butler's not going to do anything because they just signed Stephon Gilmore anyway.
Right.
I don't see why people are even talking to these guys. Why would you want to do that? Why are you beefing these mega teams up? We're not the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in a complete agreement with you. I think it's kind of odd that some of these teams, would do that with New England, especially not getting Malcolm Butler back isn't really. I'd rather have Cooks 100 times over Butler, and it's just kind of like people just seem to forget that a lot of these guys, well, not all of them, are a product of the system that they're in. And then they come out of that system that was designed in a certain way, and they just don't fit. They don't produce in the same way. And
especially the New England guys.
Right, exactly.
I mean, look at a guy like Matt Castle.
Yep.
Obviously very different position, but, I mean, you throw any quarterback into Belichick's offense and he's going to shine.
Exactly, and that's what makes me nervous about Garoppolo, too, not to go back to that sort of conversation. But, you look
I'm pretty high on Garoppolo personally.
I am too, but it makes me a little bit nervous, especially for what they potentially could have to give up for him. It makes me nervous because coming out of that,
definitely charging out of the ass for it.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
And then he's going to come over, and luckily the Browns have fortified their offensive line because otherwise he would have been hurt by the second half if he made it that long. So it's an interesting dynamic, and we'll have to keep an eye on it. But another wide receiver that I think, a team that's bolstering kind of to sort of negate this effect might be the New York Giants. I thought Brandon Marshall going there to give them a second to line up against opposite side of Odell Beckham was, especially at the price that they got him at, was a pretty good deal pretty early on in free agency. What do you think?
Yeah, he definitely took a solid pay cut there. He just wants to stay in the media capital of America. I mean, that's how he is. He's only making $12 million over the next 2 years. I feel like he and Odell are very similar. Obviously, Odell is much younger and has the speed that Marshall might not have anymore, but I see them as two very similar players. It could be very conflicting for them this season, with Eli trying to pick who is going to be the main target. Obviously, Odell should and most likely will win out in the end there, but I could definitely see some problems in the early going for this.
Yeah, potential problems for sure, but I mean, you have all training camp to figure it out, and I think it gives you a much better number two that teams coming in have to think about. That would be, ideal. Now, you're not only worried about Odell on one side of the field, you've also got, Marshall on the other, so it throws in a little bit of a different twist.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams boosting up and getting two solid receivers at this point. Alshon Jeffery and Torrey Smith both just signed with the Eagles today. Torrey Smith, I think, was on a 3-year, $15 million contract. He'll be the number 3 guy probably behind Alshon at 1 and Matthews at 2. Alshon only signed for a 1-year deal. He's getting $14 million. I was really expecting a big paycheck for Alshon. It could end up biting him. If something goes wrong this season, his production drops, he gets injured. I mean, he could end up regretting that seriously. Maybe he's just holding out for the right team to look at him, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think when you look at Alshon's stats, he only had 2 touchdowns last year.
Well, who was throwing to him?
I'm in agreement, but he might be saying, "I'm going to bet on myself to go to a team where somebody is going to throw to me. I'm going to have a quarterback in Wentz to throw to me. I'm going to get more touchdowns. I'm going to acquire more yards. I'm going to put up a better stat line in 2017, more similar to something like his 2013 or 2014 season, put in a full season, and then at the age of 28, he can still get that mega deal. Versus where if he signs maybe for less money at a 2 or 3 year deal, his window disappears and he doesn't get paid as much. So maybe that's sort of the thinking. Puts up the numbers, he's going to get paid. I don't know. That when I look at the numbers, when I look at the contract structure and his age, that sort of is the vibe I'm getting off of him and the contract he signed.
Well, I definitely believe that's the thinking behind this all, but I mean, as I said before, it's just a high risk, high reward situation here. Either way, he's going to be making some money, but he could really hurt his value going into next off season.
Yeah, I mean it's all a gamble, you know. You never really know. And you're right. NFL is even more of a gamble than some of the other sports because there's a greater chance of injury and a greater chance of you sustain an injury that takes you out for a longer period of time or, you know, hinders your career in some way. NFL, you tear an ACL and you can't move and cut the same way as a wide receiver. You're suddenly in trouble and you're not, you know, you're going to struggle to come back, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, and I don't mean to keep repeating here, but another wide receiver did make a solid deal today. That was Desean Jackson, moving from the Redskins over to the Buccaneers. He's going to be lining up alongside Mike Evans, which I think it's a great match right there. I think it's going to be awesome to watch personally. He's signed for 3 years, $33.5 million. I'm very excited to watch this team next year from the offensive standpoint.
Yeah, this team Tampa Bay really took a lot of strides forward last year. I think some predicted and some kind of, you know, unexpected to some degree. And now you add a guy like Desean Jackson into your offense and you're going to grow by leaps and bounds. It's just one of those moves where it solidifies you. He had an excellent year last year. He has an excellent track record. It's a great deal for this organization who's really looking to make a splash and make a serious playoff push. So I liked the deal for him. I thought it was a very good deal, especially in a market where wide receivers did seem to be at a premium, but I thought it was a good deal for both sides, really.
So are we in a agreement here that Romo's going to be a Texan next season?
I mean, it would certainly look that way.
I don't see Denver making any kind of moves to reel him in.
Well, it's one of those things where it could come down to Romo as well, and I think I would just sort of caution from, you know, you saw how fast Osweiler got flipped. If there's any real shot of Romo going to Denver, I think Denver makes the moves it has to, whether that's moving Simeon or whoever else, and just sort of making it happen, and making it happen in a hurry. There are teams out there, you know, that have the cap space to maybe swallow something and be able to take back a huge contract like an Osweiler. So I wouldn't necessarily count out Denver. I think if you're Romo, you're sort of secretly hoping you go to Denver a little bit. But
yeah, I'd be all for going to the Texans.
Yeah.
Why would you rather be in Denver?
I don't know. I just feel like I feel like if Denver had any semblance of a quarterback and offense again this year, kind of like they did 2 years ago, the defense wouldn't have to be on the field so much, and they might be able to go back to where they once were when they did win the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously that's a long shot, but that would be
No, why
sort
not
of.
just stay home? You already been living in Dallas for the last, what, 15 years? Probably, I don't even remember what year he got drafted. Would have been 2001, 2002. So 15, 16 years he's been in Dallas. I mean, why not just go across the state to Houston?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but ultimately, when we really get down and think about it, um, Romo's going to play probably 3 games this year, and then he will probably end up hurt, and it won't make a difference where he is because he'll be sitting on the bench. So, I mean, I think at this point in time of his career, it's going to be kind of tough to trust that he's truly going to get through 16 games and lead a team into a playoffs. He does not have the track record right now. He's just too injured, too injury prone to really expect that out of him.
You got to take a gamble on a guy like that, though. You got to take a gamble on a Romo as opposed to having your Simeon or Paxton Lynch, your Brock Osweiler / Savage going at Houston. You just got to take that chance.
I would take that
as far
chance
as I'm
too.
concerned.
I would take the chance too, but I think I don't think it matters where he goes. I think it's just going to be one of those things where it ends up just not coming to completion. It's just not going to work out. And wherever he goes, especially if it's through a trade, I think you got to try to, restructure his contract or whatever, because it's just one of those things where the reality of it is all it's probably going to take is one more hit, and he may not be able to play football again. So I don't know if I'd put all my eggs in that basket. Certainly worth a try for a year, but it's not a long-term plan. Hopefully whichever team gets him is also thinking long-term. So it's just how he's been. He's been hurt.
He's not getting more than a 2-year deal.
No
way.
I wouldn't give him more than one. Deal. I wouldn't give him more than one, and I'd take out a giant insurance policy if he got hurt.
There's going to be someone out there that'll offer him a 2-year deal, and I think he'll take it just because of the guaranteed.
Yeah. I
don't think so.
Mike Glennon got 3 years for $45 million, and he hasn't proven anything yet to this point.
I'm really rooting for the kid, though.
Yeah, I mean,
like I said, I've been watching him for a long time. I think he's got the tools to be a hell of a quarterback, but
it's sort of insane what he's getting paid.
he's just getting thrown into the fire.
Yeah,
it just kind of worries me. Maybe given the right situation, he could definitely shine, but I don't know if this is going to do it for him. He took the money and he took the starting gig, so. Good for him. I hope it works out for him. I hope it works out for Chicago. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Especially without Alshon. Losing Alshon is just huge.
That's huge. It's going to be a tough team. Tough team to watch. Kind of like the Browns. It's just going to be a tough year, I think, for both fronts. But, quarterbacks.
You get to watch the Browns up close and personal. Lucky you.
Yeah, what a blast. Well, 16 games with them.
Hey, how many games in a row have the Cavs lost now? I'm
3.
Sorry. I lost count. 3.
Yeah. Yeah, 3. Don't even get me started. That's for later this week.
When are we going to talk about that?
Later this week. Once I prepare my notes so I can rip them to shreds.
Fair enough. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. Like, final thoughts on our bracket challenge?
Yeah, I just want to throw out a quick reminder about our ESPN bracket challenge. There's still time to join in. A reminder that, first place, you're going to win a $25 gift card. And all you have to do is just join the group, create your bracket once Selection Sunday has picked all the teams and put them into the bracket. You just got to fill it out and then follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or we'll even accept Twitter as well. And then just comment and let us know what your bracket name is so that we can match your bracket to you in case you do end up winning. Second and third place are going to win stuff too, but it's an awesome opportunity to not have to put any money forward and take a stab at it, even if you don't know what you're doing, and maybe you'll come away with a gift card and some certificate that kind of gives you a little bit of props, and you get some bragging rights too of being able to pick the best bracket. So again, that's through ESPN. You can search for our group. It's just Batting Practice Podcast, and you're welcome to join. But to be eligible for the prize, you just gotta follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and let us know what you named your bracket. So that's all I have for tonight, Bragan. Any closing thoughts?
Oh, share it with as many people as you can, guys. We're just trying to get the word out. We're trying to grow. It's been a lot of fun getting this together. We think we're definitely headed in the right direction, but we can't go anywhere without you guys sharing and giving us feedback. So any feedback you've got, appreciate it. Tell your friends. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at batting_practice podcast and Facebook at BPBK Panda. Thanks, guys.
Well, that wraps it up for tonight. Stay with us. Later in the week, we're going to drop an NBA, also talk some college hoops, and then early next week, once Selection Sunday comes out, you'll get a sneak preview. We'll break down the bracket, pick our teams, and you can use us as a cheat sheet if you want. So give us some feedback as always. We love to hear your thoughts, what you want to hear, what you like, what you don't, and we'd love to tailor it to whatever you guys enjoy. So thanks again for joining us. This has been Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. We hope you guys all have a wonderful evening.